Welcome once again. Now, a few days ago, in a conversation with former spokesperson for the PDP candidate in the 2023 elections, Mr. Daniel Buhari, I got to once again be reminded that a lot of Nigerians either have zero standards with which they rate the performance of government, or they simply deceitfully disregard those standards in order to not be critical of government when convenient. It is again deceitful, and one of the reasons we may never have one voice in demanding for a better Nigeria. So this morning, to you as a Nigerian, I'm asking, what is your standard of leadership? What standard do you demand from those who currently hold power? What standard of accountability? What standard of being proactive? What standard of performance do we expect from the heads of ministries, departments, and agencies, including security? Those who have been made minister of this agency or that, who have a responsibility given to them by the Nigerian people. What is the standard that you demand of them? Do they simply just exist, hold on to that position, get celebrated, and, run their tenure maybe for 4 years or 5 years, I don't know how long, and that's it? Do they simply just, exist in those positions and, maintain status quo? Over time, Nigerians have been used to non-performing governments. We basically accept the barest minimum. We say things like, well, since he came in, there hasn't been any petrol scarcity, so he has done well. Just listen to that. Things like, oh, he suspended the minister that was accused of diverting funds. So, we're impressed. He's a no-nonsense president. Take a listen to what that sounds like. Or celebrating the governor by saying, oh, he's been paying salaries regularly. So, he's an action governor for regular payment of salaries. Some even say, oh, he had a 13th month. One of the governors used to, of course, use state funds to build a few bridges and roads, and they named him Mr. Project. I want you to listen to these things and understand my point. That when we say things like this, don't we sound silly? Because why are we celebrating fishes for swimming? Why are we giving the Champions League trophies to a dog for barking? Because first of all, there isn't meant to be petrol scarcity. Your job isn't to maintain the barest minimum in the Ministry of Petroleum. That's not your job. Yes, of course, you should suspend and even fire a minister who's been accused of diverting funds. Of course. Nobody needs to remind the president to do that. Nobody needs to give the president a standing ovation for that. Now, what do you mean when you say he's been paying salary so he deserves another term? What does that even mean? These are questions that I believe Nigerians need to start asking themselves when they ask, once again, what are the standards with which you rate the people that you've put in office? In what ways do you say that this person has done well as a minister or as a head of a government agency or as governor or, as permanent secretary or as president? And again, I understand that these things are coming from the PTSD of having people who ran their ministries to the ground. And instead of getting fired, they completed their tenures and eventually were rewarded with another ministry or eventually went on to run for governor. There's too many examples. And it's a shame. It's a huge shame how poor our standards have become. Look at the last decade in Nigeria, and try pointing out any government ministry or agency that are seeing significant improvement and improve the quality of life of the average Nigerian. Just anyone. I'm sure it's going to be very difficult to point to any, but hey, we had people running those agencies that are celebrated today and told that they did well for holding those positions for 4 years or even more. And now even to those who speak about the presidency and heap praise on Mr. President for taking the most basic steps, again, I'm asking this morning, what is your standard of rating a government? What will be your standard of rating the government on security, for example? There are currently people being killed in Plateau State, and of course, being killed also and kidnapped in other different parts of Nigeria. At the end of 4 years, are we going to rate the president, with the previous administration and say, well, 60,000 people got killed in this one, but, this one only 20,000 people got killed, so there's an improvement. At the end of a 4-year term, what improvements do you want to see or do you see in education and healthcare, infrastructure and security, the economy, ease of doing business, foreign investments, the fight against corruption, Human Development Index, and many more. What are the improvements that you see at the end of every 4 years when a person has run through billions of naira or even trillions? I said it not long ago that former President Buhari set the poorest standards with regards governance that Nigeria has ever seen. And even though there's a few people who praise him for reasons best known to them, his failures cannot be the standard we use in praising President Bola Tinubu, because President Buhari was never and should never be the standard that we set for ourselves as a nation. He should never. The expectations we have of people who have been elected into office in the giant of Africa should be a lot higher, and that's my point. President Buhari cannot be, and this is to people like Daniel Bwala who say that who paint a picture that since Buhari didn't do it and Tinubu is doing it, so of course we should praise Tinubu. But no. President Buhari should never be the standard with which we rate performance in Nigeria. People like the chairman of INEC shouldn't just be ignored after they've carried out arguably one of the lowest rated elections in Nigeria's history. Because after giving out 400 billion naira to the commission, we should, as a people, demand some level of excellence in the process. The same thing with ministers who have annual budgets running into billions of naira every year. If you ask the average Nigerian who's the Minister for Power or Minister for Trade and Investment, Youth, Housing and Urban Development, I'll bet you 8 or even 9 out of 10 don't know these people. And it's mostly because these ministries or ministers haven't added any value in the lives of the average Nigerian. I'll wrap up this morning by saying that Nigerians must demand better. Nigerians must set higher standards for their leaders. Nigerians must stop seeing what should be normal as fantastic. Nigerians must stop celebrating mediocrity and boldly tell a government that it has failed. There's no harm in doing it. Some sense of stability in a ministry doesn't equal success, because the idea we have of normal currently is below par. And so if a government has been in office for 3 years without being able to significantly improve the quality of life of the people, then it must have reasons why. Nobody's celebrating you or anybody for suspending a non-performing government official. It's what you should do. And again, Nigerians must give themselves standards and set higher standards for those who they put in office. That's it on Which Way Nigeria this morning.